I would definitely say this is another question where instructions matter a whole lot. And to also think about when you're adding knowledge, what type of knowledge works best for which.
I remember that from Build, and I was also really impressed. I like the idea that it's multiple agents, each with a specific task.
Welcome back, everyone, to the latest episode of Demystifying, where we are here to answer your most burning questions related to Copilot Studio. I'm back, Charles Drayton. I know you missed me last time, so I decided to come back. And this time, I brought a couple of friends with me. From our customer, we have Tim Hoyt, who is a Principal Product Manager. And on the Microsoft side, we have Aghogho Biakolo, who is also a Product Manager. Tim, I believe you have a couple of burning questions you'd like to ask Aghogho. Why don't you go ahead and ask?
Awesome. Yeah, Aghogho, what I've seen is that to improve the response quality of a Copilot Studio agent, there are a few things that make a big difference. Turning on generative features, determining which knowledge to include and how to include it, updating the instructions, and using topics to only reason over a subset of knowledge for a particular question. What are other ways to improve answer quality?
That's a great question, Tim. Let's look at a couple ways of what we can do that, starting off with the easiest. So for every knowledge that you add to your agent and for every tool, there comes with it a description, and that description is really important. So when you're adding a document or a SharePoint, I always recommend that your description describes what type of content is in that document, as well as when you want this agent to use the knowledge or tool that you've added. You can even give an example of what type of questions it should answer and when you need it to be called. So in some cases, you might only want your agent to use the knowledge that you've added and not to use the general knowledge from the model. So what I would do here is head over to the settings page, and in the generative AI section, a bit at the bottom, you need to scroll to find it. You'll see a knowledge section with the ability to toggle off, allow the agent to use its general knowledge. I would toggle that off. In other cases, when you just want to have like an enhanced experience with your quality, I would also toggle on the tenant graph grounding with semantic search, because semantic search works a lot better than the traditional keyword search, and it also works really well for SharePoint as well as Copilot connectors. So those are like the specific things you can do. At a higher level, it's also really important to make sure that your instructions in the agent are very crisp, that you let this agent know in the high level instructions what type of knowledge has been added, when you wanted to use that knowledge, and to also think about when you're adding knowledge, what type of knowledge works best for which. So for structured data, a lot of it could be handled better if you upload it to Dataverse and use the Dataverse search on it. And if you have really large amounts of data, what I've noticed is that the Fabric agent works super well, and you can have a multi-agent solution with our Copilot Studio agents where you can use that agent as well.
Awesome. And follow-up question, is there a way for me to control what resources an agent uses when determining what actions to take? Sometimes generative is necessary, sometimes flows are necessary, and sometimes other models are necessary.
Yes, I would definitely say this is another question where instructions matter a whole lot. In the instructions, you would be able to specify when you want specific tools to be called and what type of questions you would like that tool to use. Looking a bit downwards, we can see that connectors are really great when you need a high level of control because of the inputs and outputs. So within the inputs, for example, when you're using the post a message to Teams channel, chat or channel specific under the Teams connectors, when you're using that tool, you would be able to input a specific Teams channel, a specific team associated with it. And in the description, that is where you could add that information of call this tool when this happens, as well as use this tool for this type of situation. That works really well. Another thing we've noticed is when you need your agent to answer things in a very specific way, with very specific language and tone, prompts work really well here. So with prompts, one of the great things about them is that you can select different models as well as any models that you build in Azure AI Foundry. This works really well for healthcare as well as finance and other types of industries where specific language might be needed. So I would say using prompts for those would be good. You can also use flows when you have multi-step solutions. So if you know that when someone joins your team, you need to set up 4 or 5 different types of accounts, you need to order a laptop, there are all these different processes that need to happen one by one with each other. Flows work really great here. And it would be good to add those to your agent and also specify in the instructions when to use them. The other thing I would say for this answer specifically is just to make sure that your instructions are really great. I really keyed in on that. But they do matter a whole lot, I would say. One other thing to note is for topics. So if you have specific questions that need to always be answered in a specific way, you have a structure or a flow of how you want it to go. So if you have like a little bit of a form of yes/no, those type of dialogues, and then you also have specific documents that need to be referenced, it would be good to use topics with generative answers in those cases, or just use topics and answer the questions.
Those are some great tips. And just to zoom out for a second, what is the coolest agent you've seen built?
The coolest agent I've seen built was definitely the CSX demo at Build that Charles showcased. One of the things that I really love about that demo was the use case. It happened, looking back, like CSX specifically manages about 20,000 miles of track. They are a cornerstone of American transportation and are really important to a lot of businesses in getting their products shipped to the right places. So for them, when incidents occur, it's truly a big deal. And seeing how they leverage Copilot Studio to make sure that law enforcement is notified, to make sure that the right crews are selected and notified and dispatched, as well as how they used specifically prompts to make sure that the language was very specific and sensitive. They used computer use in some cases when there were no APIs to access some of their internal tools to file these reports. They also used their own MCPs to get the general knowledge as well. And that multi-agent solution where there was one agent for notifying crews, another agent for notifying customers, I think it was a great demo overall. What have you seen yourself that you really liked?
I remember that from Build, and I was also really impressed. I like the idea that it's multiple agents, each with a specific task, all working together for a great business outcome.
Yeah, that was a fantastic demo as well. And it's a representation of what CSX is actually doing. So really, really exciting. I also have to say that second question in particular was probably the biggest question that I had in my head as well. With all of different tools and processes and options available to you, knowing when to use what, where was the big thing for me. So thank you for clarifying that. All right, let's wrap things up here. Once again, thank you to my guests. And if you'd like to learn more about all things Copilot Studio, first head on over to the Power Platform community at community.microsoft.com. There, you can connect with super users, MVPs, and Microsoft engineers at the Copilot Studio forum to resolve issues, answer questions, and learn best practices. We're rolling out some really exciting AI-driven features as well to get you answers faster than ever. We've also recently launched the Agent Creator page at agentcreator.microsoft.com. Some of our most prolific experts at creating agents are all there showcasing their work, and they would love to connect with you. If you haven't already started using Copilot Studio, head on over to aka.ms/try Copilot Studio. And finally, to keep up with the latest announcements, guides, tips, and demos, make sure you join in to our LinkedIn and our YouTube page. And don't forget to come back next week for the next episode of Demystifying Copilot Studio, where you'll see me once again. Looking forward to seeing you then.